What's up, horror fans? Happy Halloween. Today I'm going to be bringing you my top 20 favorite horror movies. I hope you guys have been enjoying Halloween so far. So I figured since it's Halloween, I should go over my top 20 favorite horror-related movies. I know, and it's also subgenres of horror. Like for example, Scream is more of like a slasher, which is still a subgenre of horror. So that can count. So I guess we'll start off with number 20, and that's Saw. It was a unique concept for a movie to have somebody who's basically giving people a choice as to what they're going to do in order to survive. And he takes people who may be taking life for granted and puts them into situations where they can still live but have to realize that they're in a different situation now because of what they chose to do in life. And yes, he is still basically a serial killer, even though he claims he's not. But yeah, it's an okay movie. The first one at least is good. Next I have is It from 2017, the remake of the movie It from Stephen King. I've never been a huge fan of It, and I think the first one was definitely better than It Chapter 2 when it came out, just because the first one really focused on the kids and all of that, and then obviously the second part when they're older, it's not as fun, I think, watching the kids try to fight against Pennywise because they're no longer kids; they're adults now, and it's decent. And Bill Skarsgård does a great job playing Pennywise in It from 2017, but it's not my favorite, and I think that's why it's so low on this list. The next one I have is another kind of unique concept for a movie, and that's Don't Breathe. So, if you haven't seen Don't Breathe, basically there's this blind war veteran played by Stephen Lang, and he ends up like kidnapping this one girl who killed his daughter in a car crash. But that's not why these people break into his house. We find that out later. But they break into his house because he's supposedly rich. They break in to try to steal the money from him, and they're thinking that it'll be an easy robbery because he's blind. But little did they know that it's not as easy as it seems. So it was a pretty good movie. I didn't watch the second one. I know that it just came out. I do have it on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it yet. I probably should, but I just haven't gotten around to that one yet. But if you haven't seen Don't Breathe, I would definitely recommend you check it out. The next one I have is another one from the Saw franchise. Technically, it is a sequel to all of the Saw movies, and it stars Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. That's a pairing right there. It's called Spiral from the Book of Saw, where basically these people are going back through and trying to relive John Kramer or Jigsaw's like greatest moments and stuff, while also connecting it back to people from the past that have to do with John Kramer in a way. And so it was basically a good continuation. It was one of my favorite movies from the franchise. So the next one I have is Pet Sematary, the original one, obviously, not the new remake one, but the original Pet Sematary from Stephen King. Another really unique concept where basically it's this, I guess, like this Indian burial ground type of thing, and they believe that the soul can bring the spirit back to life and stuff, and these things come back to life if they're buried there. And this guy's son gets killed by a car. So he takes his son and buries them there, hoping that he'll come back to life because they buried their cat there and their cat came back to life. but they didn't know that it was evil when it came back to life. So the kid comes back to life and starts going on like a murder spree, and then in the end he has to kill his son again, and then basically he buries his wife there who got killed by his son, and she comes back to life at the end of the movie. And you can guess where it's going. It's obviously evil. There was a second one, not as good, but Pet Sematary was a pretty good movie. It was kind of neat to see how that worked. I think they're making a prequel to it. Either they're making it or it's already out, where they basically discuss how the cemetery got to be the way it is. So I think that'll be cool if you're a fan of Pet Sematary to check that out. I'll have to watch that when it comes out. This next one is, I guess I probably could have put this a little higher up on the list, just because I like it so much. And if you take it for what it is and looking at it as an individual movie rather than part of both of the series that it combines, it's a pretty decent movie by itself. And that's Alien vs. Predator. They made a crappy sequel to it. Most sequels are crappy. I didn't like Requiem at all, but Alien vs. Predator, I know it kind of goes against the continuity of the Yautja, which is the Predators, and the Xenomorphs in Alien, but for me it was still a fun movie because I hadn't, when I first watched it, I didn't watch the Predator movies and I didn't watch the Alien movies. So to have this backstory that the Yautja came to Earth, and then in order to show the people of Earth that the ancient civilizations that they should be worshipped as gods, they had to bring in this alien race that they could defeat to show that they were these great warriors and that people would worship them. And so they brought in the Xenomorphs. They brought the Queen to Earth and things, and she, they fought against the Xenomorphs, and they had a contingency plan. If they ever lost, they would blow up the whole area just so none of the Xenomorphs would escape. But because they also lost, they would basically all commit suicide. So it was a pretty fun movie for if you don't look at it as part of the continuity of the Predator movies or the Alien movies, it can be fine by itself. But once you get to that point where you have to compare it to Alien and compare it to Predator, yeah, it doesn't make sense because what we know from the Alien movies, the Xenomorphs were from a different planet. I mean, they still could have been brought down to Earth because it does take place in the present, but I think Alien takes place in the future, so I don't know how that would work. But it's this whole convoluted thing with if you compare AVP to the two different franchises, it gets all just convoluted and stuff. So taking it as it is, it's a good movie, a decent movie, I guess. And I liked it, but that's why it's not higher up on the list. But I don't have a problem with Alien vs. Predator, and it has one of my favorite movie quotes of all time in it. If you know what it is, comment it in the comment section if you know what that quote is that I'm referring to. The next one I have is the Final Destination movie. I guess you could technically put all 5 of them together. The 5th one with the twist is really fun at the end, but I just think it's kind of cool to show like what happens when you try to cheat death. You know what I mean? And to have it where it's basically they go on a plane. The kid has a premonition of what's going to happen. He causes a fight, gets people kicked off the plane. The plane explodes, so everybody dies that was on the plane except the people that got off who were supposed to die on the plane. And then so it starts this cycle of death coming back for them basically, and the people start dying one by one. So it was a pretty unique concept for a movie, and I really like the Final Destination movie. So I wish they would have done more, but at the same time, I'm glad they stopped at 5. Next up, I have The Shining, a classic, Stanley Kubrick, based on the book by Stephen King. Dr. Sleep wasn't bad, which is the prequel to it with a grown-up Danny Torrance, played by Ewan McGregor. But The Shining was it's just a classic, horror movie. Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, and it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to go check that one out. Next, I have the first of the 3 new Halloween movies, so Halloween 2018. I really liked it. I thought, for it being a direct sequel to the original, 40 years later, being a direct sequel with nothing in between, none of that convoluted crap that happened in between. Stay tuned for my review of these Halloween movies. When I do my ranking at the end of Halloween, on Halloween Day, I will be putting all the Halloween movies, I think there's 12 or 13 of them, counting the 2 remakes, in order of, which ones I think were best, and then kind of comparing them for that. So stay tuned for that, for more details on the Halloween movies. But there's, to go from Halloween to Halloween 2018, I think was okay, and I like that they set up the backstory later on. So I was okay with it as a movie, and as a kind of like I don't want to say a standalone film, because obviously it's part of the series, but for having a movie kind of by itself, at least at the time there weren't the other 2 yet, and it was a direct sequel to the first one, so I thought it was pretty cool. And to see Jamie Lee Curtis come back as Laurie Strode, and she now has a daughter. Well, she had a daughter technically in one of the other Halloween movies, but those aren't canon anymore. So she has a daughter and a granddaughter, and things happen and stuff. And it's a really fun movie, I think. So definitely check out Halloween 2018 if you haven't seen it. Next, I have A Quiet Place, another one that I thought was a kind of unique concept for a horror movie, where John Krasinski's character and his wife in the movie and in real life, Emily Blunt's character, they have to survive on a planet where you can't make a noise, or these alien creatures that invaded will come after you and attack you and kill you. So you're basically living in silence, and you can't make any type of noise. And of course, Emily Blunt's character is pregnant in this movie, so there's this huge tension scene where she's trying to give birth without making noise, which I'm sure is hard. And then obviously the baby's gonna be crying all the time, so like they have to find this way to do it without making noise. And so I think it was a really cool movie. I didn't watch the second one, so I probably should, but yeah, the first one's a really good movie. Next, I have Christine. I liked it for the fact that it's a car that basically has a mind of its own, not like the Disney Pixar movie Cars. This is a horror one where the car basically, anybody that's mean or rude or anything to its owner, the car will basically go after it and stuff, and the car has its own personality and things. So it's a really good movie. The book was written by Stephen King. Really good movie. Definitely check out Christine if you haven't seen it. Next, I have another one of those kind of combination movies, like Alien versus Predator, but that's Freddy versus Jason. I had a great time with this movie. You get 2 iconic horror movie villains with Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, and you put them in this mashup that you want to see. Yes, the best part of the movie is kind of the end, when they're actually physically fighting each other, but it is still a great movie overall. The fact that Freddy has to wake Jason up in order to cause fear, but it is a great, 2 iconic horror movies battling each other. But I thought it was a really good movie. Next is, and if you watched my previous video from Halloween of this year, where I compared Jaws and the movie Orca, Orca is my next one. It's a really good horror movie about a man played by Richard Harris who is whale hunting, and he ends up killing this pregnant female orca, and not knowing that the male orca was watching and caught a glimpse of him, and the whale ends up tracking him down through the entire movie, trying to find him, and in the end does find him, and they, I don't want to say battle because it's not really a fair fight, but he does find him. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you to tell you what happens, but it was a really good movie, and it's definitely one of those movies that might not make you want to go in the ocean, kind of like Jaws. So go check out that video if you haven't already watched it. Go check that one out because that was fun. Next, obviously, is one of the classics, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Just a really, I mean, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. There's no better movie casting, I don't think, than Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. There's not much else I can say about A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, it's not a perfect movie, but I mean, it's just one of those iconic horror movies. And you know, if you haven't seen A Nightmare on Elm Street and you like horror movies, then you obviously don't like horror movies, because it is a good movie. Staying with the classics, we're going to Halloween, the original Halloween. One of my favorite horror movies. It's just Michael Myers is just this eerie, you know, this really eerie just figure, and you can't like horror movies without watching Halloween and liking Halloween. The concept of it was fun. The whole thing was great. And watch my ranking again when it comes out later on this week. Just a really great movie, I think, as a classic horror. Like, when I think of horror movies, I think of the big three: Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers. And so it's just, you know, it is seriously one of my favorite horror movies. And so we'll stay with classics, and we'll go to this bad boy right here, Alien. Just, you know, remember, in space, no one can hear you scream. Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, with these weird alien creatures called the xenomorphs, and they get sent to this planet, and then she battles against the queen in the end. Just a really great movie. They made 4 of them. Not all of them were good, not all of them were bad. 3 was kind of, whatever. And then they made the, you know, obviously the sequels with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. But the original Alien is a good movie. The next one I'm going to go to is another one of my favorites. They have 6 movies in the series now. I bet you can guess which one of these it is. That's right, it's Scream, aka Stab. If you're watching the Scream movies, they have Stab. I actually got this from somebody on Instagram who makes these customizable VHS tapes. Well, not tapes, but cases, just for like show and stuff. And he actually made a Stab one, which was kind of cool. Look these up on online and see if you can find these from him, because it's a really good. It's called Matinee Studios, I believe. But yeah, Scream, you know, awesome concept for a movie. One of my favorites. The whole series is pretty decent. It has some hits and misses, obviously every series does, but the original Scream is just, it's seriously one of my favorite movies. The next one is this one. I mean, just look how cool. This is a figure of the Yautja, or the Predators from the movie Predator. This is just a little, you know, collectible figure of those. But look just how cool he looks. And I think that's what made me like Alien vs. Predator so much, was because that was the first time I saw him on the screen, because I didn't watch the Predator movies yet. But this thing versus Arnold Schwarzenegger is just a great standoff of a movie. Predator is one of my favorites. The original Predator, that is. There's 4 movies. 2 isn't bad. Predators, I mean, these people get dropped on the island, or on the island, on the planet where the Yautja are from, and they hunt. And then, of course, the fourth one was trash. The concept didn't make any sense, and we pretend that one doesn't exist. But Predator is just an amazing movie. You need to go watch it if you haven't seen it. Staying with the classics, we're going to Friday the 13th as my second pick. Just one of the best horror movies, and you know, everybody always mistakes it and they think that Jason Voorhees was the killer, but he's not. Remember that. He's not the killer till the second one. And it was just a good movie to see what revenge can do to people, and I think it was a really good movie to watch, and you know, it's obviously one of those classics. But now we have to talk about my all-time favorite classic horror movie, and yes, I'm saying classic. It came out in 1975, still rewatchable today. One of not only my favorite horror movies, but one of my favorite movies in general, and that's this bad boy right here, Jaws. Anybody that's watched this channel or watched anything, or ever, you know, talked to me or whatever, knows that I love sharks. I'm into all those shark documentaries and stuff. And Jaws, I don't care. Everybody says it makes them not want to go in the water and stuff when they watch it, but for me, it's just one of the best shark movies you will ever have, and it's just really cool. I just love it. I can't even explain why. It's just, for me, it is just an amazing movie, and for coming out in the 70s and having that horror kick, it's seriously a great movie. And if you haven't watched Jaws, you definitely need to go watch Jaws, and go back and check out my comparing Jaws to Orca video, where I talk about which one I think is better. I think you can kind of get a hint if you didn't watch the video yet. So anyways, guys, there you go. That was my top 20 favorite horror related movies. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out what else we had already on Halloween, and check out what else we have going on later on in the week for Halloween. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you want to see certain reviews of movies, not necessarily for Halloween anytime, but just a review in general of any of these movies, leave in the comments which one you want to see. But anyways, guys, there you go. That's all I have for this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, get to the chopper. In space, no one can hear you scream, and you're gonna need a bigger boat. Happy Halloween.